Farmer who just would not give up, digging in his field in Michigan when he thought he hit a fence post. Turns out he found a window back to the Ice Age.
Partial remains of a woolly mammoth found in Michigan may provide new evidence about ancient humans.
These remains, Bristol says that he hopes it will be used for educational purposes and that he may donate them to the University of Michigan.
Most farmers spend their days tending to their land and learning how to get most out of their crops. While these agricultural professions are used to checking on their farms on a regular basis, they occasionally come upon astonishing discoveries that are utterly surprising. Such was the case for one unwitting farmer who came upon a strange relic that turned out to belong to something completely unexpected, something that had gone extinct many years before. Keep watching to find out what the farmer's strange finding turned out to be. Throughout the years, many amazing discoveries have been made. However, these can be perplexing at times, especially when made in unusual locations. This Michigan farmer was excavating a field when he discovered something incredible. A farmer and his friend are digging in the 79-degree heat on a sunny September afternoon in Lima Township, Michigan. Their excavator hit something solid as it went through the soil. The guys had struck gold, but they have no idea how huge of a find it will turn out to be. In 2015, farmer James Bristol and a friend were excavating a field near Chelsea, Michigan. They merely meant to install a drainage pipe. Their day was about to take an unusual turn as they came across this substantial item. What could it possibly have been? When the workers initially saw the object, they assumed it was a fence post or a piece of wood, but they soon recognized it was something quite different. It was a bone, and not just any bone, but a large bone. Could it have come from a dinosaur? The lads, like most of us, had little familiarity in paleontology, so they contacted the University of Michigan for assistance in identifying the find. Professor Daniel Fisher, director of the university's Museum of Paleontology, was sent along. Fisher inspected the bone soon after and determined that it belonged to a woolly mammoth rather than a dinosaur. While a small number of the massive monsters survived until as late as 3,600 years ago, finding any evidence of one is unusual, particularly in Michigan. Furthermore, this was no ordinary woolly mammoth. It was a Jeffersonian mammoth, named after founding father Thomas Jefferson, a rare mix between a regular mammoth and a Columbian mammoth. Fisher believed that the mammoth that left these bones died between 11,000 and 15,000 years ago. It had lived to the age of 40 before being slaughtered by humans. Fisher believes that the position of the bone indicates that people killed the animal and then disposed of its carcass in a pond. This archaic practice of keeping meat and other findings was not new to the professor. Mammoth finds are rare in Michigan, where only 10 such individuals have been discovered in recorded history. The bones of the mammoth's distant relative, the mastodon, have been unearthed significantly more frequently in the United States, with more than 300 instances of the extinct mammal identified in the Great Lakes state alone. Back then, time was of the essence, and Fisher wanted to thoroughly excavate the bones. As a result, scores of his students and 2 local excavators pitched in to help with the excavation, which lasted all day from dusk to dawn. This was an especially thrilling find for Fisher and his crew because it was one of the most complete mammoth skeletons ever discovered in Michigan. The find contained a skull, tusks, a pelvis, shoulder blades, and multiple vertebrae and ribs. Furthermore, its careful and competent extraction from the ground by trained paleontologists meant it could be more beneficial for scientific research than bones wrenched from the ground by untrained members of the public. The discovery of the mammoth remains in a pond has also sparked a number of speculations about the species' relationship with humans. Along with the bones, 3 boulders were discovered, which could have been used to weigh down the animal, and a stone flake, which could be proof of the mammoth being butchered. Long-term investigations, however, would be required to confirm such views. The availability of the bones for such extensive scholarly usage was quickly called into doubt, as the owner of the land on which the bones were discovered, Bristol, might potentially claim possession of the skeleton. What happened next was entirely up to him. Fisher emphasized the significance of the find and hoped that Bristol would be gracious enough to allow his team to continue examining the bones. These rare discoveries are essential in expanding our understanding of the history and biology of these animals, as well as the lifestyles and habits of early humans, he told ABC News. Studying this mammoth could also teach us more about how the climate system works and what types of changes occur throughout time, which is very relevant to us right now. Fortunately, Bristol made the right choice and gave the bones to the University of Michigan for further study. The remains could possibly be combined with additional bones to construct a complete skeleton for public exhibition. "This find doesn't just belong to me," Bristol said in a statement. "Many others will benefit from the ability to witness this mammoth for many years to come. I consider it a good day if I can make people happy by doing that." Bristol may have made the find of a lifetime, but for professional reasons he is hesitant to repeat it. "I hope it doesn't happen again," he told the History Channel, emphasizing the importance of returning to farming. Next to one of the tusks, the researchers discovered a little stone flake that could have been used as a cutting tool. And unlike a natural death, the neck vertebrae were arranged in their precise anatomical sequence as if someone had chopped a big chunk out of the body and placed it in the pond for storage, according to Fisher. The first step toward proving this notion would be to wash the bones and look for butchering cut marks. The date when people first arrived in the Americas is unknown and has sparked fierce dispute among archaeologists. The age of the Lima Township mammoth and confirmation of the probable links to human hunters or scavengers could help push back the chronology of human occupancy in what is now southeast Michigan. In another surprising discovery, farmer Jose Antonius Nieves was merely getting some fresh air while taking a simple Christmas Day stroll around his property in 2021 when something strange happened that would remain etched in the minds of many far beyond his small village. The farm was a typical area to locate all types of plants and animals, but on that unassuming day, Nieves stumbled onto something he had never seen before in his line of work and absolutely stunned him. Jose Antonio Nieves' property was in Cala Spegazzini, some 25 miles, 40 kilometers south of Buenos Aires. During his walk, he came across a stream on his property and noticed something unusual. Unassumingly jammed into the stream's bank was a big spherical item that he initially mistook for a giant stone. As he came closer, Nieves realized it wasn't a stone at all. He couldn't figure out what the unusual object was because it was partially covered in mud. As he scrubbed the grime off the circular object, he began to link it with something else. The strange find appeared to be covered in rough scales that were generally dark in color, with some weird green hues covering some parts. Nieves spent some time digging the mysterious object out of the mud and cleaning it in order to have a better look at it. Nonetheless, he was having difficulty removing it off the riverbank and needed the assistance of another pair of hands. When my husband returned from the car, he said, "Hey, I just found an egg that looks like it came from a dinosaur," she explained. We all laughed, thinking it was a joke. However, it was not a joke at all. Rena eventually came to help her husband out, but it turned out that the unusual find wasn't actually a giant relic that could have been a prop on the set of Jurassic Park. The family was completely perplexed, but they would soon learn the shocking reality. By the time the cops arrived at Jose's farm, a swarm of townspeople had gathered to witness the show and snap photos of it. Despite everyone's best efforts to explain the oval item, neither the police nor the general public could reach a conclusion. At this juncture, the authorities opted to defer to more specialist field experts and summoned 2 local archaeologists who might possibly explain this out-of-the-world discovery. The archaeologists were overjoyed at the prospect of studying the rare find. The archaeologists realized how massive and heavy the big egg-shaped object was when they removed more mud and attempted to lift it out of the riverbank. The archaeologists conducted extensive investigations and examined samples of the enigmatic shell-like structure under a microscope. To everyone's surprise, the scientists disclosed that the 2-ton discovery had an explanation. They discovered that the massive object was, in fact, an incredibly well-preserved old fossil of a prehistoric beast. Experts concluded that the massive fossil, which dated back roughly 10,000 years, was in reality the armoured turtle-like shell of a long-extinct prehistoric monster known as Glyptodon. But how did the ancient Glyptodon shell end up on the farm of Jose Antonio Nieves? Professor Adrian Lister of the Natural History Museum in London noted that such fossils were common in flowing bodies of water, where erosion eventually revealed ancient shells and bones. The mud could also have functioned as a protective casing. Glyptodons roamed Earth during the last ice age, yet they are not as well known as other prehistoric creatures such as the giant sloth and saber-toothed cats. These mammals are identified by their spherical plated armor that measures about 2 inches thick and is roughly the same size and weight as a Volkswagen Beetle. The species also possessed a protective bony cap on the top of their skull, as well as a spiked tail that it could swing to warn off predators or employ during intra-species conflict. Glyptodons were relatively peaceful herbivores that grazed near lakes and rivers. Let's hear your thoughts about these finds in the comments section.